The Millionaire, the Black Beggar, and the Elon Musk encounter in the era of Donald Trump. Jack Reynolds was supposed to be untouchable. The billionaire with a genius mind, a smile sharp enough to cut steel, and a life story straight out of a tech fairy tale. Yet on one unusually hot spring afternoon, he did something no headline could predict. He pulled his 8-year-old son, Max, out of their glassy skyscraper world and into a neighborhood where the cracks ran deep and stories bled raw. This wasn't some staged PR stunt. No cameras, no fancy donations flashing on billboards, just Jack, Max, and a gritty city breath that swallowed them whole. The streets throbbed with a strange energy. The thick smell of sizzling street food mixed with the undercurrent of desperation, a scent heavy as sweat and hope. Kids yapped, playing tag in the cracked pavement. Laughter burst like fireworks, but felt fragile, like it might snap at any second. Jack's hand tightened on Max's shoulder, not in cant. "Old partner." Jack froze. Partner? This man? The gutters and grit masked a truth Jack never wanted pulled into the light. Marcus stumbled closer, clutching a torn business card from a company Jack forgot he ever had. His breath smelled of smoke and lost time. The crowd around them quieted, like the ground itself was holding its breath. Jack's chest tightened, heart banging a wild rhythm, his palms slick and trembling. Memories clawed at his mind. Early days. Dreams bigger than the alleys they stood on. Choices that split paths forever. This wasn't just a meeting. It was a reckoning. But while Jack teetered on the edge of shock and shame, Max, oblivious to the thick air, laughed. He handed Marcus a bright red apple from his backpack, not knowing this was no ordinary beggar, but the very man whose shadow haunted his father's fortune. Marcus's cracked lips curled into a smile, fragile but genuine. They sat together on a broken bench, sharing crumbs of laughter amid the grime. Jack stood apart. Rage battled guilt inside him, the silence as loud as a scream. Should he wrap Max in the safety of his silver towers, or pull him into this harsh, tangled maze of human failings? Then Marcus dropped the bomb. "I'm your father, Jack. The one you lost." Silence hit like a fist. The world staggered beneath their feet. Whispers bubbled from the crowd. Phones emerged. Cameras flashed. The air thickened, heavy with judgment and scandal. Jack's carefully built world began to crack wide open, and just when the pressure felt like it would snap him, a shadow moved through the crowd, a figure neither Jack nor Marcus expected. Eyes sharp, voice low, hinting at secrets darker than the streets around them. A conspiracy lurking in the corners of Jack's perfect life. Jack froze, caught between the man he thought he was and the truth clawing to the surface. Who was this stranger, and what price was Jack about to pay for the next choice? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Jack's heart raced, trapped between the shock of Marcus's revelation and the innocent laughter of Max, who was blissfully unaware of the monumental storm brewing before them. The whispers swirled, growing like a tempest around his mind. "I'm your father, Jack." The words echoed, pulsing in his ears. Jack had spent years creating an identity, a king on a gilded throne. Yet here was the ghost of his past standing before him, uninvited, demanding entry to a life he'd long sought to shut the door on. Before Jack could grasp the weight of Marcus's claim, the figure emerging from the crowd shifted closer, sharp eyes cutting through the haze like headlights in a fog. It was a woman, tall and imposing, with charcoal hair cascading down her shoulders and a print dress that seemed to swallow the light around her. There was something unsettlingly familiar in her stance. A tightness gripped the pit of Jack's stomach as he realized. Max looked up, confusion flickering across his bright blue eyes. "Do you know her, Dad?" The innocence of his son turned Jack's internal turmoil into acid. "Yes, I know her," he choked out. The words fought their way into the open air, stinging their way through the tension. "Had to come back for the family reunion, didn't I?" Lydia smirked, fingers tapping against her thigh, just enough to let the crowd sense something wicked lurking under her skin. Jack's pulse raced as he darted a glance back at Marcus, who stood hollow, truth spilling out of his presence like sand through an hourglass. This was all too surreal. Was Lydia here to reclaim a past, or was she merely a tool in a larger game? Marcus jolted, the light of recognition flashing across his rugged face. You shouldn't be here! Not now!" And then the unexpected happened. A blaring siren cut through the air, slicing the chaos. A black SUV careened into view, tires screeching against asphalt like nails on a chalkboard. It skidded to a stop mere feet from where they stood. The crowd gasped, faces morphing into a canvas of horror and intrigue. A man, clad in dark sunglasses and a suit, leaped out, urgency etched into every line of his body. "Reynolds!" he shouted, breathless with something beyond panic. "We need to go now. It's not safe here." The name hung like a lead balloon, pulling everyone's focus. Jack felt the world shift beneath him, the ground becoming treacherous. He never seen this guy before, but the intensity radiating off him was tangible. "What do you mean?" Jack demanded, confusion mixing with a rising tide of fear. But instead of answering, the man turned towards Lydia, something flickering in his eyes, like a storm gathering strength. "You shouldn't have come back. You put him in danger." Jack felt a sharp twist in his gut. Danger. Heart pounding, he understood that none of this was just accidental. The stakes were about to rise, twisting knotted threads of his past with the present until they frayed. Max's fingers tightened around the apple, red and bright against the looming darkness. Jack's instinct clawed at him, urging him to grab his son and run. But run where? "Who are you?" Jack demanded, voice trembling. "That's what we're about to find out," the man replied, eyes flickering between Marcus and Lydia. And just like that, everything he thought he knew shattered, leaving only a waiting silence, filled with uncertainty and unspooled secrets, looking for a way to fix what had been broken. Jack stood frozen, caught in the gaze of Marcus. It felt like the world was spiraling, time stretching thin and elastic. "You're lying." Jack managed to choke out, words heavy with disbelief, but Marcus held his gaze. "I'm not. You know it. Your mother. She thought it was best to hide the truth. But I never left you." The crowd buzzed, a low hum rising like an approaching storm. Max looked between the two, his innocence unburdened by the weight of this revelation. "Dad? Is he really your dad?" Jack's chest felt constricted, as if the very air around him had turned to lead. This was too much. Way too much. He was a man who prided himself on control. Yet here, everything teetered at the edge of chaos. Before Jack could articulate a response, the shadowed figure moved in closer, weaving through the crowd with an unsettling purpose. The murmurs and clicks of cameras faltered, turning into gasps of confusion. Who was this stranger? And why did their very presence trigger shivers down Jack's spine? The man, dressed in a dark leather jacket that clung to his frame like secrets buried deep, stared directly at Jack. "We need to talk," he said, voice low but laced with urgency. "It's about what you don't know, about both of you." Jack's mind raced. I don't know you. What could you possibly know?" His voice cracked, frustration coursing through him. "More than you think." The man stepped closer, his eyes dancing over the crowd, scanning for threats, as if sensing something Jack couldn't. Then, chaos! A loud crash echoed through the street. A car, barreling down the road, careened toward them, tires screeching against asphalt like a terrified animal. The crowd surged back, screams erupting, faces twisting in panic. Jack instinctively shoved Max out of the way. But as he turned, vision blurred by instinct and adrenaline, he felt a searing pain slice through his side. He stumbled, heart pounding in his ears like a war drum, and fell to the concrete. The scene exploded into confusion. People ran, tears of horror streaking their faces. Above it all, each scream felt amplified, bouncing against the granite of Jack's panic. He watched Marcus lunge toward him as the stranger shouted, "Get down!" But it was too late. Jack could feel something dark, something final approaching him swiftly. The world staggered, blurring edges of every thought. But one stood out, Max. Where was he? He blinked through the haze of pain, searching the crowd. And then he saw Max, small and lost, backing away in horror as the stranger pushed people aside, rushing toward him. "Stay close to me, buddy!" Jack shouted, voice hoarse, but fear stood taller than any sound. Then the stranger lifted his arms, and everything froze. Time, breath, the very air. A movement, sudden and wild. He pulled something from his pocket. A flash of metal caught Jack's eye. Amid the chaos, as sirens wailed closer, Jack's pulse raced, realization dawning like a cold wave. This stranger was not just a figure of the past. He was a threat, a danger wrapped in secrets far darker than Jack could fathom. Max's frightened eyes flitted between his father and the stranger, confusion racking his small body. "Dad?" His voice broke through the noise, a lifeline trembling in the storm. Jack strained against the pain, Audie screaming for clarity amidst the madness. This moment would fracture everything he knew. What had Marcus revealed? What did this stranger want? And most haunting of all, could Jack protect Max from the truth that was closing in, fast as the shadows that danced around them? As sirens blared, The ground split beneath him, and Jack realized there were truths far worse than rejection, hidden in the heart of their tangled past. The game had changed. The stakes were higher, and everything he believed was slipping right through his fingers. Jack's heart thundered in his chest, a relentless drum as he struggled against the pain. The stranger's words hung in the air, thick and heavy, like smoke clouding a clear sky. About what you don't know, about both of you. He looked back at Max, fear etched in those innocent blue eyes. Jack's throat tightened. What was this man talking about? Could anything worse happen? Sirens shrieked in the distance, the world blurring as he tried to wrap his mind around the chaos. With a sudden jolt, the mysterious man stepped forward, hands raised in a placating gesture. Listen, you don't understand. It's not about what you think. Something snapped inside Jack. Then enlighten me. He needed answers, not more riddles. There was an urgency in the air that made the skin prick on his arms. Electric and charged, but the man wasn't ready to spill it just yet. His eyes darted toward Lydia, like he was weighing something, choosing words with a cautious tongue. It's about the reason she left. The truth, Jack. Lydia's smile faded. Her dark eyes darkened further. You don't know what you're asking. Her voice was calm, like the eye of a storm. This wasn't just a family reunion. This was a reckoning. A crack of thunder boomed overhead. An omen? Jack thought. Suddenly, another car slammed into the scene, its engine roaring like a beast released from a cage. Tires screeched against the pavement, sending a shockwave through the crowd. People screamed, scattering like leaves in a gale. Get back! The man shouted, eyes wide with panic. Jack's instincts kicked in, shield Max with his body, though everything felt far away. He couldn't think. He could only feel. His heart racing, muscles tensed, every fiber of his being screaming to protect his son. But the unexpected happened. As the car skidded to a halt, a door flung open, a figure emerged, both familiar and foreign. Tall, imposing, with a dark aura that seemed to grip the crowd. It was his mother, Eva. Jack's mind reeled. She was supposed to be miles away, living a quiet life. "Jack!" she yelled, urgency flooding her voice. "You have to trust me!" His body buzzed with confusion. She had vanished from the family picture, a ghost. And now here she was, in the chaos, a presence he hadn't anticipated. "What are you doing here?" Jack ground out, disbelief spilling over. "Because you are in danger, all of you," she shouted, eyes darting to Marcus and Lydia like they were shadows threatening to swallow her whole. "We need to talk, now." This was too much. The pieces reshaped themselves in an instant, and the world around him felt distorted. Could they all be connected? Max clutched onto Jack's leg, eyes wide with confusion. "Dad, what's happening?" "I don't know, buddy," Jack snapped, frustration and fear mixing like poison. Then all at once, the skies opened. Rain poured down in torrents, drenching them and washing away the dust of the street. The sound was deafening, sharp, drowning out the screams, the confusion, everything. "I can explain everything, but not here," Eva insisted, fingers trembling as she reached for Jack's arm. And that's when it hit him. a wave of clarity cutting through the madness. In one brutal heartbeat, he realized the truth buried deep. A truth that could rip apart every connection he thought he had. With the rain pouring down their faces and the world spinning, he felt the weight of those words. Jack, you have to believe me. The past isn't what you think. You've been living a lie. Suddenly, everything shifted. His identity, his family, the choices that led him here. They all felt like a house of cards, ready to collapse, barely held together by moments of forced strength. Lies? Jack whispered, rage and despair colliding in his chest. Nothing made sense anymore. Who was his father? What had he done in the shadows of his past? The ground felt unstable, cracking beneath him like thin ice. Why now? He asked, voice steady but heart racing. Because it's time, Lydia cut in, her tone sharp as glass. Then it clicked. The reality reconstructed itself before him, worth more than the gold he's chased. Relationships tangled, threads torn. Jack was left standing there, drenched and bewildered, trying to grasp a world where betrayal ran deeper than blood. As the rain washed over them, mixing with their fears, he knew one thing for sure. Whatever came next would shatter everything again. Was he ready to face the truth? Or was he just digging deeper into darkness? The sky boomed overhead, echoing his inner storm. What lay in wait? The air crackled with tension. Jack, lost in the whirlpool of confusion, could barely breathe. He glanced sideways at Max, still innocent, still smiling. But then something shifted behind Marcus. A presence, sinister and looming. The man stepped forward, pushing through the crowd, eyes glinting like broken glass. He was dressed sharply, a tailored suit that stood out against the surrounding grime. His voice cut through the murmur like a knife. Jack Reynolds, we need to talk. The crowd stirred, whispers rippling through them like waves. Who was this? Jack's heart raced, panic flooding his senses. Do I know you? Jack asked, struggling to keep his voice steady. You know everything about me. You just don't remember. The stranger replied, a smirk creeping across his face. He turned to Marcus. You've told him, haven't you, the truth? Jack felt the world tilt. What truth? He demanded, desperation cracking his tone. What are you talking about? Marcus looked between them, his fragile facade crumbling. Jack, this isn't just about us. It's bigger. It's about who you really are. Sweat dripped down Jack's back as the stranger stepped closer, invading his space. You don't remember anything, do you? The company, the deals, the mistakes. With every word, a new wave of doubt crashed over Jack. What mistakes? He asked. Voice strained. The stranger leaned in, whispering, You're not just a billionaire, you've got blood on your hands, Jack. You know what your father did to mine? A lump formed in Jack's throat, bitter and heavy. My father? Yes, he made choices, horrible ones, the stranger said, his voice low and dangerous. And now they're coming back to haunt you. Jack staggered back, feeling the pull of a dark memory he couldn't quite grasp. Images flashed across his mind, unknown faces, desperate pleas, shadows lurking in the corners of his reality. Above them, the sky darkened, clouds swirling, like an impending storm. The crowd, sensing the shift, began to step back, eyes wide in horror, mouths whispering rumors. Marcus reached out, but Jack stepped away. "No, you're lying! I'm not my father!" "Oh? Then what will you do now that you know the truth?" The stranger's eyes glinted with a mix of malice and anticipation. Jack felt the ground beneath him loosen, the walls of his carefully constructed life cracking wide open. The world around him blurred, voices merging into a cacophony of uncertainty. He thought of Max, wandering farther away, blissfully unaware. As the stranger stepped back, revealing a folded piece of paper he had kept hidden, time seemed to freeze. "This will change everything! Open it!" "If you dare." Silence swallowed the moment. Jack's hands trembled at his sides, heart thumping wildly. The crowd leaned in, breathless, hungry for the revelation that could tip the scales of everything they thought they knew. He took a deep breath, his pulse racing. "What are you waiting for?" the stranger taunted, voice dripping with seduction. "Your whole life could shift in an instant." Jack's chest burned with unanswered questions. Every detail shifted, grappling for clarity. He reached out, life as he knew it hanging by a thread. What lay inside that folded paper? Would it be proof of his father's sins? Or worse, a connection that tied them both? The moment stretched like elastic, ready to snap. He needed to know. But as he reached for the paper, the crowd held its breath, the silence pregnant with the promise of chaos. Jack stood there, blood roaring in his ears. The world around him blurred, for his father stood before him. And yet he felt more alone than ever. His heart pounded in rhythm with the murmur of the crowd, an audience hungry for a spectacle. Max's innocent laughter echoed, cutting through the thick tension. "Your father?" Max looked up, wide-eyed, unaware of the weight of the revelation. Jack's stomach churned. It felt as if the ground was pulling him down, ready to swallow him whole. Marcus stepped closer, a man shaped by hard living and dark secrets. "You have to listen, Jack. There's so much you don't know. You think you've built everything, but the truth is..." A scream sliced through the air, halting Marcus mid-sentence. A woman in the crowd pointed, her face a mask of terror. "Look out!" she cried. Jack spun, instinct kicking in. Before he could process what was happening, a shadow leaped toward them. A violent figure, moving swift and deadly. In an instant, a loud bang rang out, followed by a pulse of heat. Jack's heart stopped, fingers curling around his son protectively. Time slowed. He saw the world above them twist into chaos. Screams erupted. People raced. And everything came crashing down around them like glass. Bah! The scent of fear mingled with smoke. Max's laughter was gone, replaced by a chilling silence. Jack's gaze swept to Marcus, who staggered backward, shock etching his features. Then, in a flash, the figure vanished, swallowed up by the fleeing crowd. Jack's mind raced. "Max!" He turned, panic tearing through him, but his son wasn't by his side. "Max!" screamed Jack. A hot wave of dread surged through him. The world spun. Where was he? The laughter, the warmth, it was gone. Instead, all Jack felt was the cold grip of reality. His son was missing. "Jack!" Marcus's voice pulled him back. "We have to move!" "Not without Max," Jack insisted, fury boiling over. The shadows of the alley crept in again, the weight of the truth becoming unbearable. Suddenly, a voice rang out from behind. "Leave the past, Jack!" It wasn't just a warning, but a threat. Jack turned, a shiver running down his spine. It was the stranger from before, standing tall and imposing. "Focus on the present. Your son is in danger. What do you know?" Jack's voice trembled, rage battling the rising panic. The stranger's eyes held answers, but shrouded secrets. "Enough to know you're blind to what's right in front of you." The stranger stepped closer, every word dripping with meaning. "You're not who you think you are." "What?" Jack's breath came in harsh bursts. The chaos of the street faded. Marcus may have lost everything, but he isn't the only one with secrets. You weren't just abandoned. You were traded. "No!" Jack's world crumbled, shattered. "You're lying!" Marcus shook his head, fear etched in his features. "Listen to him, Jack. It's all connected. You, me, everything." The stranger stepped forward, teeth clenched, voice low. "And if you don't act now, you'll lose your son too." The tension crackled around them like electricity. Jack's pulse thundered in his ears. What had he stepped into? And then, behind the stranger, Jack caught a glimpse of a familiar red shirt, a figure emerging from the crowd, clutching something tightly. It was Max, and he wasn't alone. Heart pounding, Jack took a step forward, but deep down, he began to realize nothing would ever be the same. What was the price of knowing the truth? He felt the ground shift beneath him, uncertain, waiting for the next revelation to turn his world upside down. Jack's heart pounded like a drum in his chest. The crowd was still, eyes locked, breaths held. Marcus's claim echoed in his ears. "I'm your father, Jack, the one you lost." Each word felt like a brick hitting the ground. Max, innocent and blissfully unaware, played with the apple's glossy surface. Then, out of nowhere, a woman rushed through the crowd. Her hair was wild, as if it had been caught in a storm. Panic ignited in her eyes. "Jack, get away from him!" she shouted, voice sharp as glass. Everyone turned. Jack's world swirled. Who was she? The sudden urgency in her tone felt like a bell tolling. Marcus stepped back, confusion etched into his features. "What do you mean? No! You don't get to say that!" The woman cut him off. Her breath came in rapid bursts. "He's not who you think he is. Not your father. Not really." The crowd buzzed. Whispers crawled through the air, drowned by the pall of tension. Jack's mind raced. What? What do you mean?" His voice came out raw and shaky. Max still held on to the apple, watching, wide-eyed. "Marcus is a fraud!" she yelled, her words slicing through the unease like a knife. "You have to trust me!" Her eyes darted back to Marcus, fire and fear dancing behind them. "He's not your father, Jack. He's a con artist. He's been trying to swindle you." Jack felt the world shift beneath him, a terrible earthquake tearing through his constructed life. His stomach knotted. "Who are you?" he demanded, shaking with a mix of anger and confusion. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I know the truth," she shot back, each word laced with desperation. "I've been following him, finding the pieces. Jack, he's dangerous. You have to believe me." "Your mother?" She hesitated, looking torn. She's alive, Jack. They've been keeping it a secret from you. Jack's breath caught. What? The sentence twisted like a knife, causing warmth to wash over his face. His mother, long thought buried under years of silence and loss. No! Marcus screamed, his voice fraying. That's a lie! Don't listen to her! He appeared frantic now, stepping closer to Jack as if to shield him from the truth. But Jack stood frozen, gripped by uncertainty. The woman's revelation jangled in his head, brewing doubt about everything he thought he knew. Could it be possible? Could his mother still be alive? The onlookers reacted in a tidal wave of shock. Phones buzzed with notifications. Murmurs flourished, whispers of secrets and shame morphing into a storm overhead. Max dropped the apple, its bright red surface rolling away as if it were dropping from Jack's dreams, splashing onto the cracked pavement like shattered hope. Jack's fingers twitched. He wanted to reach for Max, shield him from this reality bubbling over like magma. But his feet felt glued to the ground. Jack, the woman urged, a flicker of connection igniting in the chaos. We have to go, now! It's not safe here! But as Jack shifted to leap toward her, a siren screamed in the distance, a blue and red flash painting the street with panic. Shadows lengthened, and the crowd began to scatter like leaves flung in a storm. Jack, caught in the center of an unraveling story, looked back. The confrontation, the truth, the danger, they all collided around him, and he felt his tight grip on reality slip. What was this hidden life? Who was Marcus really, and what does it mean for them all? As the world whirled around him, Jack was left with only one question pulsing in his mind. What price would he pay to uncover the truth that lay buried beneath lies and fading memories? Jack's heart raced, the cacophony of voices swirling, blending panic with confusion. He turned to Max, who seemed unimpressed by the chaos, clutching the fallen apple like a lifeline. Max, we need to go! But even as he spoke, a shiver of dread crept down his spine. What if they ran, and it only made things worse? The woman's wild eyes caught his again. We don't have time! The longer we stay, the more danger you put him in! She gestured toward the crowd, where shadows were shifting, eyes watching, waiting. Then came a loud crash, glass shattering somewhere behind them. The crowd surged, gasping and stepping back, as if the air itself had split apart. Jack's breath hitched. Max's small hand slipped from his grasp. Max! He shouted, fear plummeting deep in his gut. Dad! Max's voice echoed, frantic. Jack turned just in time to see Marcus shoving through the crowd, reaching for his son. Get away from him! Jack yelled, lunging forward, adrenaline pumping. But there was no avoiding it. Before Jack could reach Max, the crowd parted like waves around a sinking ship. And then, among them, a man stepped forward, his silhouette illuminated by the flashing lights of the approaching police cars. Stop! He commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. Jack's heart sank. The figure was familiar, yet unknown, eyes glinting with a mix of authority and menace. Jack Reynolds, the man intoned, stepping closer. We've been looking for you. In that moment, confusion turned to clarity, a clarity that sent a wave of cold fear washing over Jack. Who are you? He demanded, relentless. But the man's focus was unyielding, turning to Max, who stood frozen, shock etching his face. We need to take him for his safety. No! Jack's world spiraled. "You can't take my son!" But the man took another step closer, and suddenly there was a flash. The crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath, as Jack watched in disbelief. The stranger, Ian, a name resurfacing from the depths of his mind, flashed a badge, opening his jacket with the force of a lightning strike. "I'm with a federal agency. Your life is in jeopardy." Jack's heart trembled. The chaos cracked open, plunging him deeper into suspicion. "What do you mean?" "Higher-ups want you silenced. We believe your father was linked to crimes that extend far beyond what you understand." Jack staggered back, the truth like ice in his veins. He glanced at Marcus, who stood, pale and hollow. "This can't be!" But Ian cut him off. "It's true. Your life has been built on a foundation of lies, and they can't afford for you to find out." In an instant, the world twisted again. The ground quaked underfoot as Jack wrestled with a flood of memories. Ian wasn't just a stranger. He was a ghost from the past, someone who had been watching from the shadows all along. And then, amidst all the commotion, came that unsettling revelation. Your mother, she knew everything. That's why she's been hiding. A cold knot lodged itself in Jack's throat. "Enough!" Marcus shouted suddenly, voice raw like scraped metal. "Your mother was trying to protect you, Jack. The choices she made, they were to keep you safe." Jack turned, shock intersecting with fury. Safe from what? Safe from who? But Ian's demeanor shifted, a new layer of urgency creeping in. "We don't have time. If you don't trust me, then trust the evidence we've gathered. Confirm her whereabouts, who your real enemies are." Then, in an explosion of noise, the crowd surged backward. The air turned electric. A figure emerged from the haze, cloaked in shadows, and all chaos erupted anew. A flash of metal gleamed, catching the light. "Get down!" Ian yelled. Time froze. Jack dropped, instincts kicking in, shielding Max from what felt like a bullet tearing through the space above them. But as he ducked, everything went dark. The impact was severe, a blast wave ripping through the crowd as shouts filled the night. Max screamed. Jack's world dissolved around him. His son, where was he? And the truth unraveling in the midst of violence, a truth so heavy, so insidious, that it sent Jack spiraling toward a reckoning he never saw coming. Just then, as he struggled to shake off the haze, a haunting voice rose from the shadows. "Jack, it's time for the truth." But before he could grasp that reality, before he could understand who was speaking, the ground beneath them split. Chaos enveloped them, leaving Jack on the precipice of a disaster that could redefine everything. What was true? What was a lie? And who would come out alive when the dust finally settled? Jack was thrown into confusion as chaos reigned around him. The stranger's warning echoed in his mind. They were in danger. He scanned the scene, searching for Max. The crowd pulsed with fear, but all he could see was the chaos, the vibrations of panic shaking the air. Then the crowd roared as the airfield tightened. Just as he suspected, danger lurked. An explosion of color lit the darkened sky. Fireworks? No! Not fireworks! The loud bang hit him like a punch to the gut, and the world exploded with a deafening silence. Jack's heart froze. The crowd gasped. the faces around him morphing from shock to sheer horror. He turned towards the source, dread pooling in his stomach. Smoke curled upward, swirling violently, obscuring everything in its path. "Get down!" Ian shouted, pushing Jack further into a protective huddle over Max. But it was too late. A shape emerged through the smoke. A woman, dark hair tousled, eyes wide with fear. "Jack!" she cried, voice drenched in urgency. Jack's chest tightened. "Mom!" The word slipped out before he could stop it, a fragile whisper cracking against the noise. She rushed toward him, her face ghostly pale. "I'm here, but we need to go, now!" "No!" Marcus yelled, desperation tearing through him. "You can't trust her!" But Jack barely heard. His mother's voice, after all these years, anchored him in a whirlwind of chaos. "You shouldn't have come back here, Eva." Jack's world spiraled. Eva, he remembered. Now he could see it, the intensity in her eyes, the lines carved by worry and pain. "You!" He couldn't finish the thought. The past flooding back. Sirens wailed, blending into the chaos. The ground vibrated under the response of multiple engines. He heard their approaching light, and still, in the tension, the truth built pressure in his chest. Did she know? Did she know what Marcus was hiding? Max's frightened eyes locked onto Jack's, the boy's trust flickering dangerously. "What's happening, Dad?" Jack's mind raced. "I don't know, buddy." He reached for Max, instinctive protectiveness surging. He had to shield his son from this new madness. But the moment turned dark as he felt another presence, the stranger moving closer behind him, looking between Jack and Eva. "Get the boy," the stranger shouted, like an order pulled from the depths of a war. Tension rose, spiraling into an invisible grip around Jack's throat. "Who are you?" Jack forced, struggling to keep command of panic. "This is bigger than you realize, Jack," the stranger barked. "You're not safe. No one is. You think you know your mother's secrets? You don't even know the family you're part of." Before Jack could process, he felt a shudder ripple through the ground. A figure stumbled from the smoke behind, colliding with the crowd, dislodging people like tumbleweeds. Jack's breath stopped anew. Another familiar face, the same man he thought he'd lost to the shadows of profitability. His father, gleaming recognition in his eyes. "You need to listen to me, son." The crowd thinned, silence stretching a thread before snapping with disbelief. "You?" Jack's voice cracked. He was witnessing a collision of lives that he never anticipated. His heart raced, fearing the depth of betrayal more than any danger ahead. "Why now?" he asked, feeling every syllable slice through the frantic air. "Why show up like this?" His father's gaze bore into him, a storm. "To warn you, they're coming for you all. The truth, you need to know your past." The puzzle pieces aligned, bruised edges fitting painfully together. "What do you mean?" Jack breathed, sensing the shift. Something catastrophic about the revelation hovering just out of reach. But the answer didn't come. In a frenzy, voices rose, but Jack could only focus on the revelation that twisted everything inside him. "Jack," Max interrupted, pointing to a flicker of movement from the shadows. "Look!" Jack spun. There, emerging from the chaos, was Marcus, his expression shifting dramatically from fear to cunning. "I've been waiting for this moment," he stated, voice dripping with sinister calm. Jack's stomach dropped. In that instant, everything shifted. Loyalties drowned, truths twisted like a serpent against the ground. "Jack, run!" Eva screamed, but his limbs felt sewn to the ground. "Marcus is the one you need to fear. He's always been part of this, part of our family's downfall." The turmoil erupted into a deafening cacophony, a fight for survival, a truth that pulled tighter, threatening to rip them asunder. "What did he mean?" Jack whispered, fear raking his spine, seeking the pieces of his life that were crashing down. But before he could connect the fragments, the shadows leaped. The world sucked into chaos, and Jack realized there was no returning to the life he thought he knew. The very background of his existence was shifting like quicksand. "I'm your father, Jack," Marcus roared, voice merging with the din. And with that chaotic yell ringing out, the truth unraveled, leaving Jack caught in a web of betrayal, crossed wires of family, a past riddled with lies. What price would come next? And who would stand with him when it all came crashing down? The storm was just beginning. Jack's heart raced, the echoes of confusion and betrayal still lingering in the air. As Marcus stood defiantly, challenging him with every word, Jack felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. The crowd, alive with murmurs and urgent whispers, seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next twist in this chaotic tale. "Jack!" Eva shouted, her voice firm. "You need to trust me! We can't let him manipulate you any longer!" There was desperation in her eyes, a glimmer of a mother trying to pull her son back from the edge of a dark precipice. "No!" Marcus barked, his face twisted with fury. "Who do you think you are? You abandoned him! You left him in a den of wolves?" The crowd shifted, a collective gasp rippling through them. Jack felt the heat of their stares, judgment lacing the air like smoke. "Enough!" Jack shouted, voice steady. "This isn't helping. Let's not do this now." He turned to face Max, who stood wide-eyed, clutching the fallen apple. Jack kneels down, urgency marking every word. "Max, listen to me. I need you to stay close, all right? No matter what happens." "Okay, Dad," Max whispered, a tremor in his small voice. Ah! Before Jack could reassess the situation, the sudden arrival of sirens cut through the tension like a blade. Blue lights flashed, illuminating the scene in a haunting glow. A black SUV skidded to a halt nearby, and uniformed officers poured out, weapons drawn and expressions etched with determination. "Get back! Everyone move!" they ordered, loud and commanding. In that moment, everything balanced on a knife's edge. Jack turned to Ian, the mysterious stranger, with newfound clarity. "What do we do?" "We fight back," Ian said, his jaw set. "Stand together. They want you, Jack. They want to silence the truth." With that, a wave of adrenaline surged through Jack. He moved instinctively, flanking Max behind him, using his body as a shield. He glanced to Eva, who stepped forward, determination lighting her features. "We have to tell them everything," she said, glancing at Marcus. "It's the only way to end this." "Jack," Marcus croaked, voice cracking under the weight of his emotions. "I'm sorry. If you let me explain—" "I don't want your excuses," Jack spat, anger thick in his throat. "You've done enough to ruin my family." Tension hung heavily in the air, each second stretching painfully. Then, as if breaking some unspoken barrier, the crowd surged forward. The officers barked orders, "Move back!" But Jack stood firm. "There's been enough hiding," Jack shouted, voice booming over the chaos. "I am Jack Reynolds, and I won't be silenced anymore." Max stepped beside him, wide-eyed but resolute. "Me too. I won't be scared." The officers hesitated, glancing at each other, unsure what to make of the sudden show of defiance. Jack felt the nervous energy in the air. "Let's deal with this head-on," Ian said, his tone transforming, pouring conviction mixed with urgency. "We have to show them the truth to protect you." As the police began to approach, Jack felt the swell of determination rise within him. "What's the truth?" he declared, turning to the gathering crowd that had held their breath. "You need to know, our family's past is plagued with deception, but it ends here." Time seemed to hold as Jack dragged in a deep breath, uncertain of his next step, yet fueled by love and resilience. The warm glow from the streetlights illuminated their faces, revealing the mounting anticipation mixed with curiosity. "If you remain here, you'll uncover everything," Jack said, voice assertive. "But it won't be easy. Are you ready to step into the light of truth with me?" His proclamation hung in the night, like wildfire, spreading through the crowd, igniting hope. One by one, heads nodded, conviction growing. "All right," Ian affirmed behind him, drawing strength from Jack's declaration. As they prepared for the storm ahead, Jack felt the steady grip of determination and unity. Their journey wasn't over. It was merely beginning. The truth was still veiled in shadows and secrets, but they would stand together against whatever threat loomed. But just then, a chilling sound broke through. Instinct kicked in. Jack turned, his heart pounding in terror. And as darkness blanketed everything, one question loomed like a storm on the horizon. Would they triumph over their tangled past? Or would they be swept away in the tide of chaos? It's time to end this together. Now listen up. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe quickly to the channel so you don't miss any exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to fuel the algorithm and help us grow. I want to hear from you. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about this electrifying ending. And don't wait even a second longer to share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to experience this. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let's keep the story alive together.